than our last video. But as you'll see, the lines are much different than the Roy Lopez style of play. So we'll go ahead and get into it and talk about some of the things you may see in the Giocco piano. Starts out white pawn to e4, black responds pawn to e5. White develops his knight to f3, taking away center control here and attacking pawn on e5. Black continues his development, knight to c6, again attacking the center and defending his pawn. And white chooses to bring his bishop to c4. As you probably remember, in the Roy Lopez, the bishop comes here to pin down the knight. In the Giocco piano, he actually moves it to c4, still eyeing down his weakness on f7, putting his bishop on this nice long diagonal. And here, black is going to bring his bishop out to c5. And this is actually the position that comes to the Giocco piano. And basically, white has a lot of different options. The main objective here, as you can see for both sides, is to control the center. White's bishop and pawn are both attacking this d5 square. Eventually, black would like to thrust his pawn forward to the d5 square, controlling. White also would like to bring his pawn in the middle. As you can see, black has two defenders on the d4 square, and right now white only has one defender. So the main line continues for white to add another defender to this d4 square for this thrust that he'll eventually want is going to be pawn to c3. Now, white has many options he can do, but for the most part, you are going to see almost exclusively black develop his knight to f6, bringing into the game, putting more pressure on this d5 square center control, and also defending, or excuse me, attacking this e4 square. At the moment, we're going to go ahead and disregard this e4 square, and we're going to go ahead and continue the main line with our um, first thought, which is going to be to thrust forward with the d4 square. Obviously, before we said we only had one defender in the knight defending the d4 square, but now we've added this pawn here. So in this variation, we see black take with his pawn captures and white captures with his pawn. And here brings a lot of different variations that you will see. For the most part, we're going to go ahead and just talk about some of the key concepts here. White has very good center control. He has both his pawns in the center. His knight and queen are both protecting this d4 square. Black has his minor pieces out trying to attack the center, kind of a modern style defense here. White has his bishop developed here, attacking this f7 square and also defending this d5 square in case black tries to thrust his pawn forward, which he eventually will to free his, even if he moves it to d6. He wants to free up this bishop here so he can get in the action. And both of these knights are attacking these pawns. Now, obviously you see that black can come in here and capture, and we will get into that. But one of the first things you will see here, since we are attacking black's bishop, is black first can't take this because we will take his bishop. A lot of times you'll see black come in and check the white king. And white really has two options here. The first one we're going to go over that can lead to a pretty interesting trap here is simply knight to c3. And a lot of times from here, you will see black come in and basically put a pin. This knight here cannot move. And so black is going to come in now and take this pawn. Now eventually, black would like to preserve his bishops and bring in and take this knight, and then bring his bishop and attack and fork both of the king and rook. So we're going to go ahead and castle king side. Now again, there are multiple variations, and we're going to go over a couple of those, but I'm just showing you some of the possibilities that can happen. In this case, you'll normally see black go ahead and capture Again, he um, wants to hold on to his bishop pair. We're going to go ahead and take back in black. We're actually sacrificing a pawn here, and black's going to go ahead and take that. Now, he doesn't have to, but he's going to be eyeing down this rook. Now, you would normally think that white would have to move this or he's going to take it, but we're actually going to disregard that and set up our trap, and that is simply queen to b3. And this does a few things. One, it attacks this black bishop, so he's going to have to move. He obviously can move and take this pawn, and we can just take. Obviously, as you can see, we are eyeing this f7 square that we've got added protection from. So he's got to do something. More than likely, he's going to try to take as much material as he can, and that's going to be in the form of bishop to a1. And here our trap is unleashed. We can go ahead and check the king here on f7, and then as he moves, obviously he could move his king to e7, but then we can go ahead and bring our bishop and easily fork the queen. So normally you'll see the king move here to f8, and then we can go ahead and bring in our bishop into the action, attacking the queen. You'll normally see black has to move his knight here, and then white can move his rook to e1. Basically, his knight is pinned down to the queen. Eventually, we can easily come in here. The king cannot move. He can't capture or he can't move either of these places. Eventually, we will come in here and we will be able to take the queen. So keep that in mind. That is one very crazy variation that you may see, but a lot of those moves are, I wouldn't say forced, but logical on both sides. So we're going to get into um, another variation here, and that is simply instead of the knight capturing, is just simply the bishop capturing. And from this variation, white can go ahead and instead of taking here, he can go ahead and start moving forward, attacking the center here. He is gambited off this pawn and given it up. Now black is going to have to choose. Does he want to lose his knight, or does he want to lose this bishop here? More than likely he's going to sacrifice his knight and hold on to his bishop, since earlier on they are more powerful. So a lot of times you'll see him move back to f6, preserving this. And now we can take this knight, but we're actually going to do another move, developing more pieces, getting into the action, and move rook to e1, pinning down this knight onto the king and attacking, again, both of these knights. So we're not rushing our attack. We're not capturing when we have to. We're building up slowly our attack. As you can see, we have given up a pawn to black. In exchange, we have great development. We've already castled. We have our bishop, and we have a nice pawn here on d5 attacking. We have our rook lined up on the e file that's open, attacking the king. So from here, black can choose which knight he's going to lose. More than likely, he will move this one. You never want to have your king open on a file when it's captured. You'll lose a tempo here. So a lot of times, black will just retreat this knight, and you'll see white come in and take. And from here, white has he's down material, but he's gained a lot of spatial advantage as far as all his pieces are almost developed. Black is kind of cramped back here. And last, we are going to look at one more variation, and that's from the very beginning. And that is the Evans Gambit that you can play as white. And that simply is, again, our first instinct, we're going to want to play c3 and then d4, thrusting forward, getting that extra defender. And we know that once we play, more than likely they're going to develop their knight and give our pawn an e-orbital threat. So we're going to go ahead and give up a pawn here to this bishop. Bishop will go ahead and take here. And then we can go ahead and thrust forward with c3, preparing for this d4 move. As bishop moves back, we're going to thrust forward with our d4 initiative. Obviously, this knight is defending on c3. Now this is similar to before, but black no longer has this knight on f6. So as you can see here, we have great center control. We have a nice defense on this d4 square. Our knight is defending. Our bishop is on a nice square here, attacking the f7 square. So we have very good center control, good development, and we've sacrificed one pawn. So these are some of the things you may see in the Giocco piano. Hope you guys enjoyed, learned a lot. Check out the different videos, and please subscribe so you know when the new ones are coming out. Have a good one.